Hey guys, what's going on? It is Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. Excited to try something a little bit new, a little bit different than I normally do. It's gonna be a new Hog meta episode, really covering the most popular and dominating decks in the current meta that are based around the win condition of a Hog Rider, usually in combination with one other card. But I actually have Trainer Nick and Jordan. You know both these guys from my channel. They're two of our absolute best players, not only in Elite Gaming, but all of Elite Nation. They're both absolute studs, and they continue to kick some serious behind in the CRL and every other league that we take part in. We really lean heavily on these two guys. So I approached them both just out of curiosity. You know, I kind of do this from time to time. I asked our best players, hey guys, what decks are you winning with right now? What's your favorite challenge deck? What's your favorite tournament deck? And what's your favorite ladder deck? And you know what? I asked them this afternoon, and they both got back to me with Hog Rider decks. So I said, you know what? Screw it. Instead of making two episodes that are both, you know, watered down with 20 minutes worth of content, let's go ahead and stick, you know, maybe one or two replays of each of these decks. We'll still cover all the strategy basics, so hopefully you guys leave this 20-minute video coming away a much better Hog player in the current meta. That's going to be the goal. Now, none of these decks are necessarily brand new, meaning it seems like every episode that I put out lately, someone inevitably in the comments are saying, oh, you know, that's X, Y, or Z's deck. Why don't you give them credit? And the truth is, guys, I give credit every single time I possibly can. I tell you guys who I first found the deck from, but unfortunately, I'm not able to watch every single stream out there, so it's hard to know exactly who came up with which deck first, and then did they really come up with the deck first? We don't know. So these are the first guys that I've seen playing these exact combinations of decks, but I'm sure someone out there have used the decks before these guys have. So that's a quick disclaimer for you guys who are all bent out of shape if they didn't invent the deck. So let's go into this deck that you're watching right now. You can see here that Jordan actually loses a tower first, and he's able to make a really nice comeback here. Now, this deck only has one legendary card, the Log. But the second deck that we share by Jordan's really known for his no legendary play. He's a free-to-play player. In fact, my savvier viewers might remember him as one of my very first pros ever using the Trifecta. I actually found Jordan out in the wild or one of my tournaments or something a long time ago using Trifecta, and he first beat Zed in a Pro vs. Pro Trifecta square-off. And then after that, he beat Dylan in a Trifecta vs. Airfecta Pro vs. Pro square-off. So Jordan definitely has a really nice resume, and a lot of it's using Trifecta, so no legendaries involved at all. In this deck, he only has the Log. In the next deck, it's completely free to play, no legendaries at all. So you guys might find his decks very, you know, appealing if you guys might be in mid-level arenas, or perhaps you just don't have any legendary cards, or at least not the Log. After that, we're going to move on to Trainer Nix, who uses Lightning and Graveyard in his two decks as the win condition along with the Hog. First of all, guys, I should apologize. I am a little bit under the weather. Well, actually, a lot of bit under the weather, doing a lot of traveling lately, and you know, finally it all caught up to me. But anyway, I hope my voice is suitable to actually at least understand and deliver as many of these tips as I possibly can. So this first deck, you can see here that the name of this deck, guys, is, if you didn't watch my previous episode, I kind of touched upon some of the keys that Jordan uses in this deck. And with Hog decks, it's all about two things. A, it's using your spells predictively like he just did there. He knew the minion horde was coming. He took down the tower. And also on top of that, it's knowing when to send in your Hog Rider and knowing how to combo it with the Ice Golem and the Ice Spirit. So we're going to go ahead and move into the FTP variation using Zap instead of the Log. And we're really going to kind of delve into the strategy tips to bring you guys a lot of success with this deck. By the way, I'm going to go ahead and flash the actual deck on the side here so you guys can see, and what we'll do is just kind of go over every card in this Hog deck, and we'll talk about how to use each card. So one of the big things with this deck is it has the Ice Spirit and the Ice Golem, which is going to be absolutely devastating, and the reason being is because the Ice Golem is definitely, as you guys probably know, one of my favorite cards in the entire game. The Ice Golem on defense can soak up a ton of damage. You combo with the Zap spell, you can take down a minion horde. You basically can use it to absorb an absolute lethal amount of damage, which would have otherwise taken down your tower. I mean, just off the top of my head, let's think about all the usage you can get out of the Ice Golem for only 2 elixir. It can kite troops beautifully. You can put it in the center of your map. It can distract units coming from both lanes, and then it will obviously do its AoE, slowing damage upon its destruction, which is great to buy you some even more time and chip away at about half the health of these low HP units. In fact, it will kill skeleton armies, which is absolutely great. That's one of the reasons that offensively, you can drop your Ice Golem right before you drop your Hog Rider, and it's actually even more effective. Or think of it as what the dropping the goblins right after your Hog Rider used to be against a normal Hog Cycle deck, or with a normal Hog Cycle deck. Think of it as the new version of that, because what it's going to do is it's going to soak up all the damage of whatever the counter is going to be, especially a skeleton army is amazing. But if they happen to play goblins or something like that, or heck, even minions, it's just going to buy you a lot of time by slowing it. Then you can go ahead and queue up your log or fireball depending on what they're playing. But more importantly than that, it's going to destroy skeleton army, which is one of the most popular counters in the game right now. Even against Tombstone, you can go ahead and log combo with the Ice Golem in front of your Hog, and it's just going to be an absolute beautiful meat shield, and at the same time a distraction and that AoE slowing damage. It just really generates a lot of synergy with the Hog Rider offensively, and eventually it's going to be able to help your Hog Rider get an extra hit or 2 in against that tower, just chipping away even more and more and more. So it's an absolute great combo card with the Hog Rider. But beyond all the stuff that we mentioned already defensively, I mean, think about it. You can use it great as a minor distraction if you can guess the point or predict the point that the opponent's going to drop their miner on your tower. If you drop that Ice Golem there first, it's going to go ahead and distract that miner, doing a heck of a good job of protecting your tower from chip damage. And then beyond that, it just has a great utility. You can use it against a graveyard. It's going to soak up the attention of all those skeletons, and then when it dies, it's going to explode, killing them all. So let's go ahead and move on to Trainer Nick's decks. So the thing about Jordan decks are, I didn't really get too nitty-gritty on the strategy keys, because all it really is just the same version of the old-fashioned Hog Cycle deck. Instead of cannon, we have the Tombstone, which is so much better against tanks. The Mega Minion and your Tombstone is going to be your absolute number 1 and number 2 weapon against one of these tanky beatdown decks behind a Golem or a Giant. So look at his left lane push here, very nice. You guys already know this, but if they play a Golem in the right lane, especially to start out the match like this, go ahead and be a little bit aggressive with the Ice Golem and Hog Rider play in the other lane. Now, you don't want to commit too much more than that 6 elixir on that push, because you need to leave something left to defend. And as I said before, your big defensive weapons in this deck are going to be Mega Minion, Archer, and of course Tombstone, which you're going to rely on heavily. Think of the Tombstone, Trainer Nick says, think of the Tombstone in the same way that you'd like a skeleton army defensively, but always try to keep that card on the board. Always, when you have it up, play the Tombstone. Of course, against these beatdown decks, against the Hog Rider deck, you're going to want to make sure you have it as your defensive option, obviously, against the Hog Rider pushes. But against these beatdown decks, just keep that Tombstone cycling, man. Keep that card up. It's going to be great, both offensively and, of course, mainly defensively. So let's get into the strategy keys behind this deck. This is the first variation that we're going to share, and this is obviously the Hog Lightning deck. So let's kind of go through all the cards here one by one again, and this time I promise I'll actually get through them all. Now, these are coming again straight from Trainer Nick's mouth here. So, Trainer Nick says, the Hog Rider, it's basically the core of the deck. It's the win condition. It's the card that you always want to pair with the Ice Golem. But he says, big mistake, a big mistake that he sees a lot of people using is placing the Ice Golem to the side of the bridge. You don't want to do that. You always want to place your Ice Golem in the center tile for your Hog to push so that the Hog doesn't jump over the Ice Golem. So that's really, really important there. You'll notice that neither of these players play the Ice Golem to the side of the bridge. The Ice Golem is always centered right in that lane to go over the bridge, and as I said, the Hog will push him right into that lane, using him for cover and not going past him. So the Ice Golem himself, obviously an important defense and offensive troop. You use him to soak up damage on defense or to kill skeleton army. The Lightning is going to be paired with the Hog Rider, and you only want to use Lightning in this deck if it's double elixir time, with two exceptions. Exception number one is if you have a huge elixir advantage for some reason. Maybe the opponent did a very, very poor push and you can counter with a huge elixir amount. You can go ahead and, of course, pair the Lightning with the Hog Rider. The other exception is if, for some reason, you're able to take out over 7 elixir worth of damage on offense with that lightning spell, meaning you can go ahead and target like a tower and a mega minion and an elixir pump, for example. So if you can do that, go ahead and get away with it, but otherwise you're going to be saving that lightning spell to combo with the Hog and double elixir time. That's really where this deck is going to shine. Now, we've moved on to the graveyard deck, but I do want to go ahead and just talk about the utility cards before we move on to the graveyard, and that will be the last card that we deal with in terms of the strategy advice that Nick provided. So, the Fire Spirits. The Fire Spirits, Nick says he loves Fire Spirits and he thinks people don't use them enough. It's mainly used on the Hog pushes. It can be used on defense too, and for minion hordes, for example, or minions mostly. But offensively, think about it, guys. I mean, you combo the Fire Spirit with the Hog Rider and it can take down so many counters to the Hog. So, don't be afraid to use Fire Spirits, especially if you're not having a lot of success in your Hog deck. Try taking away, maybe you're playing goblins, you're just not having a lot of success with it. Try putting the Fire Spirits in there instead, and I think it might do wonders for you. So the log obviously is used to knock back small troops or kill them. You can also use it to kill goblin barrels. Just be careful that you're not going to get juked by the goblin barrel, and it's very beneficial when facing a royal giant, which are definitely back into the mainstream right now. Not only is it going to prevent him from doing a few more hits to your tower, but it's also going to buy you some more time to get some more defense on the board or a distracting unit. It's going to reset his lockdown, and it's going to kill or do some damage to his supporting units, mostly archers or, Mega Minion, obviously not going to help you there, but it does have a lot of usage. Look at this Golem, by the way, right here. It's going to do a great job, that Ice Golem, of popping, slowing down those minions, and then allowing the Mega Minion to do some work, taking down the minions, and then the princess afterwards. I gotta say, real nice defensive sequence there by Trainer Nick. So moving right along here, we have our archers. Your archers are going to be basically your all-around troop. You always want to split your archers unless you really need them on defense in one particular lane. Use them obviously with the Mega Minion to destroy tanks, and they can be used on offense behind one of your pushes. And it's a great, obviously, sort of jack-of-all-trades card. You guys know how to play archers, so I'm not going to spend too long talking about them. Mega Minion, same deal. It's basically your tank destroyer, and you can use it on offense as well. Tombstone should be paired with a Mega Minion as a tank destroyer. Think of it as a building version of a skeleton army, as I mentioned before, and always keep it on the map, meaning use it. Don't sit on it. Even if you're not playing against a beatdown deck, don't be afraid to use that Tombstone. It's one of the best cards in the game right now. So if some of you guys are lucky enough to have the graveyard card. Do you guys have it, by the way? And does anybody have it? Let me know if you do, and let me know if you're a free-to-play player with the graveyard. If so, you're probably pretty lucky, and some other people might be jealous, so be ready for that. But anyway, guys, yeah, that might be the question of the day, by the way. How many legendary cards do you have if you're free-to-play? If you're not free-to-play, I assume you probably have all the legendary cards, like I am lucky enough to have. But if you're free-to-play, I want to try to get an accurate average from my viewers. How many legendaries do you have, and how long does it take you to get them? I mean, it must be pretty brutal. On my free-to-play account, I have 2 legendary cards. I have Ice Wizard, and I have Sparky. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back to this actual match here. Let's go ahead and put on the third replay here by Trainer Nick, and we'll talk about the graveyard spell in particular, even though, of course, he switched back to the lightning deck for this replay. But you can see these guys are winning grand challenge after grand challenge after grand challenge with these decks. So after this replay, after I talk a little bit about the graveyard spell, I'm going to go ahead and hop into a random match myself, and we'll see how I do. I'll probably play the lightning version of this deck, because personally, I've actually never tried comboing the graveyard with the Hog Rider yet. Maybe I will try that version. Yeah, maybe I'll go graveyard because I've never done it before. But anyway, about the graveyard, right? So your main form of damage along with the Hog Rider is obviously going to be your graveyard, only to be used in double elixir, so treat it kind of like the lightning rule. Now we'll see how great I can follow that myself when I get into a match. I tend to be overly aggressive, and that's one of my biggest weaknesses as a good player. At least I'm aware of it, but I need to get better at it. But basically, the exceptions. The exceptions is if your opponent does play a very expensive troop, such as a Golem or a Lava Hound, then of course, sure, go ahead and play your Ice Golem in graveyard in the opposite lane, or even your Hog Rider, especially if it's double elixir, in the opposite lane, and drop that graveyard, and you'll probably take down their tower. It's really difficult to defend against a Hog Rider graveyard combo. Granted, it is also expensive to execute at 9 elixir. In fact, I take that back. I wouldn't use the graveyard Hog Rider combo in normal elixir time, even if your opponent played a Lava Hound or a Golem in the opposite lane. It just won't leave you enough elixir to defend unless you want to be super aggressive and trade towers, but then at the end of the day, you're really not getting anywhere. I think the play there, as Nick mentioned as well, is the Ice Golem in the graveyard. Now, if you guys want to know where to place your graveyard, go ahead and watch a video that I'll include in the link below, or the description below, and that will be a link to the video of OJ. He actually did a really good video on graveyard placement to make sure you don't accidentally trigger anything, and to make sure you get the best value out of your graveyard spell / card. So I will link that. Make sure you probably watch that before you try the graveyard deck, or any graveyard deck. That's going to help you out a lot, and Nick also mentioned that it helped him out a lot as well. So Fireball is obviously kind of a spell version of the Fire Spirits. You can use it on offense. Of course, only when it's a positive elixir trade. You don't want to go wasting your Fireball. Some people like fireballing, say, a princess alone, as long as they're hitting the tower that they're actually going for. I'll leave that up to you guys. You guys probably already have the strategies that you're comfortable with right now, but you can see time ticking off this match, and it looks like another pretty convincing win here for Trainer Nick. This is a very, very fun deck to play. Either you're using the graveyard combo or the lightning combo, but either way, it's really lethal with the Hog Rider. So after this one ends, we'll go ahead and hop right into a match. Hopefully pick up a W to end this episode in style. So let's go ahead and exit out of this match and make sure we copy Nick's deck, because I'm still playing my favorite deck from my video yesterday. Can't get enough of that. So let's go ahead and obviously make sure he's playing the right one here. We do want to go ahead and use the graveyard version. I think that will be fun. So let's scroll up a little bit and find Nick. There he is in the clan. That might be a good place to start. And let's put him on deck number 3, I believe. So it's copied, and we are good to go. So this is the deck. Let's go ahead and just start a grand challenge up and see what kind of success we have. All right, Noah, so good luck. Let's do this. So I'm going to start out with my Ice Golem, obviously. That's the obvious play here. I'd never like to start out with Hog Rider anymore. I used to do that somewhat aggressively back in the day, but now I think it's much easier, especially in a deck like this, to just go ahead and play it slow behind my King Tower. We'll split my archers, and he's coming with a Hog Rider here, so I'm going to go ahead and log, take down that princess. Of course, I kind of misplayed that log there, and then my tombstone pretty much went to waste, so that was a pretty bad start for yours truly. But let's go ahead and get the Hog Rider in over here. Now, this is going to be beautiful over here. The Ice Golem is going to burst, and of course, all of those skeletons die, and the bowler's just kind of left, doing a little bit of damage to my Hog, but I actually got more damage than he did to me, so it kind of makes up for my failing. So what I did there was I used my Ice Golem, my Archer that I split, and I then played the Hog Rider behind the Ice Golem. So he's coming at me again with a Hog. My Tombstone there is in time to catch him that time, so that's where you want to play your Tombstone, or you can play even one square more to the right and down. Make sure you get him to the opposite lane, but either way, didn't do any damage to my tower, so I'm going to play a, I had my log hovering there, and that was because I didn't have enough elixir to play it, so I probably should have delayed that Hog Rider just maybe 3 or 4 seconds more. That way I could have played that log preemptively, because as we saw earlier in this match, we knew that he was going to counter with skeleton army, so you better believe I'm not going to make that mistake again. So I'm just waiting at this point. I'm going to play my Ice Golem here and archers in the middle, and then the archers will take out the princess, and then they'll split, and one will head behind that Ice Golem. I'm going to play the graveyard and just pray at this point, but that might have been a poor graveyard play because he has the Mega Minion, and the bowler is actually doing a lot of work, so I didn't get a lot of damage done with that graveyard. I'm going to go ahead and play a Mega Minion on this bowler, and there's the Hog Rider, so we have the Tombstone down. You can see I'm playing the Ice Golem right now to distract that Mega Minion away from my Mega Minion, so you can do the Ice Golem in that, or use the Ice Golem, do the Ice Golem. You can use the Ice Golem that sort of fashion too, and you can see this time I was ready with my log there, and the log play is absolutely huge. Now let's say he was countering me with like a Mega Minion instead, or maybe a Witch or a Skeleton, who knows. But whatever he was using, I might have used the Fireball instead, like a Minion Horde for example. I might have preemptively played that Fireball right on the tower as well. You just got to gauge during the first couple minutes of the match what your opponent's going to be playing to counter your Hog, and then just be ready for it after that. So we're just going to go ahead and play a little bit of defense here. He's actually getting a decent amount of damage. I'm kind of slacking here at this point, but he's getting a lot of damage. I'm going to go ahead and do a Hog Rush here. We want to make sure we don't lose it, and I'm going to Graveyard on the left here. So this should be pretty solid. That log there actually helped out. I thought he might play the Skeleton Army, but I had the Graveyard going as well, and it looks like I probably would have had his tower, or very close to, but either way, we pick up the W, and that's what it's all about. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this Pro Tips episode with Jordan and Trainer Nick. Thank you so much to Jordan and Trainer Nick for sharing their replays with us today. I hope you guys enjoyed them as much as I did, and thanks so much for watching till the end, guys. I really appreciate it. As always, take care, guys.